Sarah's there. Oh, 6:01. Okay. Okay, I'm going to call the monthly meeting of the Committee of the Whole of the Town of Westville to order. Welcome everyone here and virtually. Begin by saying that we are meeting in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples. And we are all treaty people, and I want to recognize that especially that this is Aboriginal History Month in Canada. We want to acknowledge that in the town of Westville as well, as we work towards reconciliation with our Mi'kmaq friends. Also want to recognize the history, legacy, and contributions of the African Nova Scotia people who've been here with us for over 400 years. Roll call, Councillor McKinnon to my right, CAO Weirs, myself, Mayor Lenny White, Deputy Mayor Murphy, Recording Secretary Reid, and virtually joining us, I know, is Councillor Sarah McKinnon, who can't be here this evening, and I believe Councillor McGregor is going to attempt to join us. He's out of town, but virtually as well, if we can get him on stream. With that, any declaration of conflict of interest? I doubt that there is tonight at our Committee of the Whole. It's on our agenda, so we're good. Tonight we have two presentations to come before us. First one is Ariel Friedman, who is the founder of Community News Exchange, CONEX, correct? So if you want to come up here, I believe, Kristen, that'll work over there. There's a mic there. Ariel, if you want to. Okay. While Ariel's coming there, thank Ariel very much for bringing coffee and some donuts. For those of you out in the audience that maybe want to avail yourself, I'm sure that Ariel won't mind.
Please.
Help yourself to the coffee
They didn't give me napkins,
and the treats that she brought. Ariel, it's all yours.
So, okay. This is very, very, very exciting.
We are very informal, by the way.
Very exciting. Thank you. So first of all, councillors of Westville, Mayor White, Deputy Mayor Murphy, Scott Weirs, and Kristen, nice to meet you all, and thank you so much for having me today. My name is Ariel Freeman, and I am the founder of something called Community News Exchange. And I'm here to talk about community news and community news business that I'm founding with a team of other people. But what I really want to do is ask you all questions. I want to know about the plans for the upcoming Canada Day festivities. I want to know how many of you in this room grew up here and what life was like then versus today. That's what I want to know. Those are the questions I have for you. But, and one more important thing I know for Westville, which is how's the local team, the local sports team doing? How are they doing? That's another important fact that I don't know, that I currently don't know, that I need you guys to stop me and tell me on the way out. These are the things that I don't know about Westville, and they all belong to a certain kind of storytelling, which is called local journalism. And one of my colleagues, I'm very lucky that one of my colleagues on this project is from Brador. So I said to her, I need to explain what we're trying to do here. So she sent me an email. If you don't mind, I'm going to read it to you. Here we go. It says, our project is all about creating a community news hub just for you, serving the small communities like Westville across the East Coast in Canada that have been left in the dark with little to no local news resource. Whether your town lost its paper or is blossoming but struggling to afford local news, or is just struggling to afford local news due to the outdated advertising model, we're here to fill that gap and keep you in the loop by helping to restore a vital, reliable voice and information resource to East Coast communities through the power of storytelling, an East Coast tradition so richly carried down through generations. That's what she shared with me as a way to explain, because I'm not from the East Coast. I'm from that other place.
Yeah.
That shall remain unnamed. So all of this is what we want to do. We want to launch a community hub with a new model for small communities, and we want to start in the East Coast. And that sounds really great, and you're probably wondering about now how it's going to get paid for, right? That's probably a good question. And the answer to that is two things: grants and scale. Okay? So let's talk about grants first. At the moment, there is quite a lot of available funding for local journalism specifically, both at the federal level, the provincial level, and even from large technology companies like Google. So Google, I don't know if you saw the announcement, they did it in time for the municipalities' annual symposium. They put $100 million in a fund for local journalism. Okay? And so you more or less just have to be in publication for about a year to access that funding. But if you're not in publication, you can't access that funding. And when I think about what it would mean to this community, for example, it would mean a role for a journalist in community. It would mean probably a position in region for an editor, and potentially even another role for somebody called a community engagement expert, who would just be sort of, think of them as an unelected leader, unofficial unelected leader of the community, somebody who really knows everybody. So there'd be a small role for them. Now these grants are great, and they're hot, and they're everywhere, but they're not gonna last forever. They aren't. And if you kind of don't start with them now, in all likelihood, you might miss the train, because they're not actually solving the problem of local news. They're not actually solving anything. They're just sort of like a Band-Aid solution. Things like the Local Journalism Initiative, for example, at the federal level. This can come to an end within the next 4 years. It's been agreed for another 4 years, but after that it could be done. So in order to ensure that that by that point it's not quite necessary anymore and that stability is assured, we need to get to a level of scale. And by scale we mean collecting quite a few smaller communities. So if you can imagine, the Globe and Mail reaches about 300,000 people in Canada, roughly 10% of the population. When you're looking at local news, the communities that are involved in local news, they have more like a 45% readership. But that is really outside of communities the size of Westville. Like, it's very far outside of the communities outside of Westville. You're not going to find too many stable papers in communities that are smaller than, I don't know, I wrote it down as 20,000 people. The really good examples start at 200,000. So we need to work with the municipality, and the reason I'm here is that we need to work with the municipality on a couple of things. We need to work with the municipality on accessing the grants, and we need to work with the municipality on a level to reach the scale that we need to offer the stability to this project. And in exchange, like we said, we'll have this role. We'll have a local journalist who will be sitting here, able to attend your meetings, able to provide information on public safety and whether or not our new friends and community are a concern, for example. That scrutiny is currently missing. And if we wait for the advertising model to come and provide that here, I think you'll find that it won't be able to attend. It won't be able to come. And I think even in this region, we'll find that the existing papers are going to really struggle, even with the existing grants in place. So what I'm hoping for is that today, by presenting to you, that you will agree to work with Community News Exchange on piloting our first community, that you will be part of the collaborative process that we want to undergo to ensure that the programs and the platform that we're building is going to be right for this, starting with this community, and just one other that we would like to pilot. And we'd like to be here with enough time to cover the upcoming municipal elections. So provide you with a record of what happened and store it for future archive. Okay, so that's it from me. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ariel.
Thank you.
Council?
Yeah, just
Councilor, Deputy Mayor.
quick question. Why did you choose Westville as one of your pilots?
That was actually written down here. I missed my own point. Someone recommended that this would be a great, Andy Thompson of Pictou recommended that this would be a great community to collaborate with, that there were some interesting issues and that we could work together, that this would be a good place for us to work together with another community.
That was basically a question that I had. I was going to ask, you were talking about a collection of communities. So there is no collection of communities yet. We are the first. This is a pilot.
You're the first, and so you'd be part of the pilot. And I have a one-page handout that explains like how the costing structure works for this, because there's costing, and how it breaks out with the grants and through the municipality. But of course, we're not looking. We're not expecting you to find us any budget within this year or next. We're just trying to get this thing off the ground, and we need an agreement in place in order to meet some of the criteria that we are trying to demonstrate. And it's interesting because one of the general questions I receive is like, if we're working with the municipality, how do we provide that autonomy to the community itself? How do we provide the journalists with the autonomy? And the company has a structure that will ensure that. That's why we need kind of an editorial structure with somebody in region who's the editor. But more importantly, we're not the first to do this. Actually, New York City has at the same time piloted exactly the same type of thing, although they're New York City, and so their problems are kind of a little different than what you might find here. Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting to be compared with New York City for sure.
It's always interesting for me too.
Now, you have used the term "we" numerous times, and who in fact are the we? How many people are involved, and how many are actually with you in this concept? It's a very interesting concept, to say the least.
Thank you very much, I hope. So there's me. I feel like I should say Mr. Dressup. There's a fabulous editor who I've worked with. So I have a 20 years plus experience in news media. I am not a journalist. I am a money person. So I work on the numbers. And it's that kind of thinking which is pretty alone in this world at the moment. Whenever I'm talking to any government level, I always say, does anyone have any advertising sales background here? And usually the answer is, well, the answer has never been yes. Let's put it that way. So I have a very different perspective, and to balance that off, I have an excellent editor-in-chief who's run some amazing papers in the world, or digital news services in the world. She was actually editor of the Wall Street Journal in Europe, so she's really very experienced and familiar with rural reporting as well. I have a kind of a CFO position filled, and also the leader, and that's a media experienced accountant as well. And then finally, as I mentioned, Grace Howley from Brador, who would be in charge of the community engagement. So she would use her local knowledge to ensure that we can speak the right language.
Your worship, how many different formats do you envision this going? Is this going to be in print, or it's all going to be digital?
It's going to be in digital, and there's a couple of reasons for that. But specifically, this is going to look a little different than what you think of when you think of a newspaper, right? This is about telling the story of this community and getting formats right for every generation. One of the frustrations for me in this business is our commitment to 500 words that some people don't have the time to read, but they need to get the message anyway. They need to be able to understand what's going on with your taxes. They need to know what's going on with your public service, like with your public safety and economic development, and they need multiple ways of it being told. And actually, digital offers great opportunity to tell that story in multiple ways, in the most effective way possible. So that's the first thing. So it's a digital-only platform, but mobile would be the only other one for now. Yeah, no print. But that's based on the knowledge that this province specifically has done a really good job of moving online since the pandemic. The numbers here are excellent. Your entire range of community members is capable of using mobile technology, digital technology.
How many forms of grants are there out there that can be accessed?
Oh, there's a minimum of 3 that I can think of, but we're talking about grants like the LJI, which is the Local Journalism Initiative, is an $80,000 a year program for journalism. So that would be a substantial amount of the cost, because most of the rest of the cost is worked out at scale. And I have a document that can show you kind of everything. At the end of the day, we're aiming for this service to cost roughly $25 per person in community. And so we're just trying to, what we do is we break it down from there. And then as soon as we get to a certain scale, we are able to have advertising offset quite a lot of the costs. But we have to get there first. And we're lucky because we know our runway is a minimum of 4 to 6 years.
So there'd be no advertising in the beginning, revenue, but you'd hope to, as time went on, entice local advertisers to come aboard? Or you're talking, so I think I do recall, we've had some conversation, Ariel and I and our CAO, one conversation I should say, not several, previously, virtually. And as I recall, you weren't talking about local advertising, you're talking about national type of advertisers coming aboard. Is that correct?
Yeah, so you asked me about my team and who's on it. There's also an advisory team of people who are all kind of news media people for the most part. We have some of your typical do-gooders, and we have some business people that just care about dollars and cents. We have a nice range of people on our advisory. And everybody, when we started this project, said, oh, well, local advertising is great. Local advertising is strong. It will support the service. And I thought, no, it won't. It's not beholden to local businesses to provide a new service to community residents. It's actually the other way around, in a way. It's beholden to the local communication to support local business. And so we aren't going to be asking for local advertising dollars, but we will be offering national advertisers who currently don't have a way to access communities like Westville, a way to access this community through a centralized bank. That has to do with how they purchase advertising, because they have to buy it centrally. They will never come to a place where they will call various communities and place ads, but they might do it from a centralized location in a bigger place, Halifax or Toronto.
Yeah, and you're anticipating to have this service available in many communities throughout the country. I mean, looking down the road, I'm sure that's your goal. So there'd be a more of a sellable point to the national advertisers as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you do the math of this community, let's say everybody looked at this. If we were lucky and we had real traction. And we're looking at about 3,500 people looking at this every day. once a day. And maybe in that time, you were able to serve 3 ads. And those ads might be worth $15 cost per mil. Like, I don't want to get too technical on you. But the bottom line is that it will never be substantial. Like, it would never be substantial enough for the advertiser, and it wouldn't be substantial enough for you to ever run that service. So, so this is a way to try to offset costs on a larger, if we can get the scale in place, which is what we're aiming towards.
You know, we recognize the lack of local journalism that's you know, coming just in the last few years, really. I came on council, as did Deputy Mayor Murphy, in 2012, and at every council meeting, I know there were 2 or 3 journalists sitting over there where your fine treats that you brought from Tim Hortons are currently stored. They were here every meeting.
And their
But
scrutiny is
that does not
essential.
exist anymore.
Yeah, and their scrutiny is essential.
Right,
Like, it's helpful to you, it's helpful to the community.
right. And, you know, we are, obviously, as we are right now, we're streaming this live on YouTube, which will be there for eternity, you know, for people to see. But other than that, you know, it falls on us. One question that I have, and I'm going to go to Councillor Sarah McKinnon. Sarah, right after I ask this question, if you don't mind. You spoke about subscriptions. So when you say subscriptions, and you were costing it out at like $25 a person, just to be clear, you're talking about us as a town paying the subscription, not individual subscribers, not residents of the town of Westville, for example. So it would be us that would be subscribing as a town or a community.
And yes, correct, and what we would do is we would work together to get the grant money to reduce the cost
Right.
to what it needs, to what you,
But,
what can eventually be afforded. And I estimate that will be somewhere between, I think it'll net out around 30,000 at the most, but we could probably work harder on getting that lower. That's without considering the Ministry of Rural Affairs and what they might offer, or even the province of Nova Scotia.
So the first few years as a pilot project, as I understand it, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that $25 per person is not an issue. It's not something we need to consider.
No.
So so let's just make it very simple. If we were to say to you, Ariel, we like the concept as a council, and the council agrees to undertake to be the pilot community, could we do it at 0 cost to our community in the first year?
I need an agreement, so I might say I'll do it for $1.
I've never done negotiations live on YouTube before, so excuse me.
That's
I'm trying to
okay.
choose the right words.
I like it. It's-
Dollar sounds great.
I would say that we need an agreement in place because we need to collaborate on accessing the grants. They won't kick in initially.
Yes.
And the other aspect of this is that the initial platform will be very basic, the
Right.
one that we provide you. If we're lucky enough to convince you to let us begin over the summer, we'll go through a process of as much consultation as you'll allow to learn about what we need to do here. But the platform itself will be very, very straightforward for the interim until we get a little bit further down the line when we can get our build done, and that's when the costs start
Okay.
kicking in.
So I'm going to go to Councillor Sarah McKinnon, who's virtually with us. Sarah, can you hear me? And we can hear you?
Can you both hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear her, Ariel?
I think so.
Okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
Your teacher's voice.
Yeah, use your outdoor voice.
Yeah, not a problem. Just a question. You had mentioned a role for a journalist, editor, and a community engagement leader for Westville. That part really stuck out to me. That would be quite exciting to have. I'm wondering for salaries and the 3 different roles, would that be something that the community news exchange that you guys have in place that you would cover, or how does that work?
Yeah, so for the first year, we will cover the journalist and community, and my team will be your editor. The role of community engagement expert is something that we're going to have to roll out probably in the fall. So that won't be in place
I
immediately.
have someone in mind for that position, I think.
It's a great position. It's a great little position. But those two positions are regional, so they have to be somebody who knows the ground, knows what's going on a little bit.
This
and
person would know that.
Instead of advertising, you can kind of have coffee with someone and find out if it represents, if they're reading about what represents them the most. So these are all, and yes, the journalism role. Now, the journalism role, the fact that you don't have one, is a shame, because it's actually, if you were in publication for a year, the role that the LJI, or the Local Journalism Initiative, is offering is $80,000 a year salary. So at the moment and actually I don't think anyone in this region is capturing that, even the existing media, some of the existing media groups, because I've had conversations and I've said, let me show you how you can access some of these grants, and they haven't really been too receptive about it. But it's hard to understand what in a moment local news is having, and how important the world identifies it as frankly, part of democracy. So if we can start this here and it looks the way it needs to deliver the information that your community actually requires, whatever that may be, then we'll have a big opportunity to funnel into this community, funnel great jobs into this community.
So the other point that I have, or a question, I guess, is we are a small community, but we're surrounded by 5 other municipal units in Pictou County. This could be a story in itself, by the way. There's 6 communities, there's 6 municipal governments here in Pictou County for 45,000+ people. Have you thought about enlarging the pilot to include not just Westville, but I guess why I'm saying that is that I'm sitting here thinking that I'm okay with my proposal for 0 cost to us, but if we start paying $25 per person, I expect that the other areas that are close to us, Stullerton, New Glasgow, the county in particular, would benefit from us having the service. Because I'm sure there'd be stories that would be generated from those communities that would join us, right? Do you know where I'm?
I understand. You're talking about like a spillover.
I don't know if I'm asking
Yeah,
you correctly, but that would be a concern that I would have, that if we were paying for the service, we were the subscribers, but the other surrounding units were getting benefit from it, as much as we would be as a community, then that would be a concern of mine, obviously, and be a concern of residents, I'm sure, should be. So I don't know how we address that. Can you speak to that?
I can't completely answer it, because one of the key things in order to answer the question is to be in publication, right? I need to be publishing to sort of start to uncover some of these issues and to deal with them. So some of them I can anticipate, but some of them I can't. And the thing that I can anticipate about this is that Westville is not alone, that this is a growing challenge across this municipality, across all of Nova Scotia, across all of New Brunswick, across Alberta and Saskatchewan, and Ontario lost 80 community papers this year, and BC nearly lost about 70, something crazy. So this is a growing problem, but what we're looking to Westville to do is to partner and to work on creating something that is meaningful to your community, because we believe that when we collaborate with you, we will understand what this has to be more fulsomely and publish something that will actually deliver results to the community. And once we do that, once we can show the results, we'll be able to show other communities how important it is. So one of the things I speak to is I try to work with academic centers so that we can provide, like if we're in place over the summer and we're able to cover your election, I believe we will be able to have a research partner, and I won't tell you who it is because, as you said, Google is forevermore, and I don't want to put them in the hot seat, but there are academic centers interested in doing the research based on what we do here.
Yeah, okay, thank you. No, that's fair. Yeah, I think it's a, you know, personally, I think it's a, we struggle with getting the community engaged and informed as much as we try. You know, example, we're broadcasting now live on YouTube, and like I say, it's there for anyone to view after. We do it with all our council meetings and committee meetings as much as we can. We encourage people to come out and give us their advice and support and information, you know, ask questions. And we've had several engagement sessions, and we'll have more going forward. But it's always a challenge for a community like ours with the lack of news coverage. And then, by the way, you're absolutely right. I just came from the Canadian Federation of Municipalities Conference in Calgary last week, and the demise of local news coverage is something that every municipal unit is struggling with. So I can understand where your idea came from. You know, if you find a void, fill it, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to get our head. For me, at least, I'm just talking about me now. I don't want to bring council into my way of thinking, but I struggle with just the concept a little bit.
Fair enough.
I think I have a better understanding of it now than I did when we virtually met with you. But it's still it's something that we haven't seen
I can't
an
show it to
example
you.
of.
I'm going to show it to
Right.
you when we build it together,
Right.
if we are
I
so
understand
lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
To take this to the national level, it's an exciting concept for sure. Your advisory committee, how many people are on the advisory board, and where are they from? Are they all from Nova Scotia or
No, they're from everywhere.
That's what
But they're
I
not
was
a
hoping to
board, they're
hear.
an
Yeah.
advisory. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
advisory group or whatever.
they're an
yeah.
advisory group.
And how many would there be?
There's about 5 people so far.
Yeah, and they have media experience.
So I can I can give you a few examples if you'd like.
Okay.
I speak regularly. So my background, just to share with you, is my first role in sales essentially was at the Financial Times in London, and then I went on to work for Telegraph Media Group, and Telegraph was actually owned by Canadians at the time, Conrad Black. So one of his sales leaders is on this board, for example, a Montreal-based person. We have, I speak with Ed Greenspan, for example, quite regularly, who's the CEO of the Public Policy Forum. I have conversations with fund managers who are interested, and people who are kind of part of the growing interest in democracy in Canada. So there's something called the Samara Foundation, which is starting to fund startups like these ones, where something called The Logic, for example, where they're trying to bring back some of the journalism here, because essentially it's very, I don't want to bore you guys, but it's pretty tied into democracy.
Yeah, yeah. Very well put. Yeah, so anything else?
Yeah,
Dr.
just
Gear?
one
Go.
quick question. For the pilot, what do you see as the frequency of new content? Are you thinking daily, weekly, bi-weekly, as it happens?
I think it's as it happens.
Okay.
So it's a really good question, because it's tied into sort of some of the challenges of the industry overall, okay? So one of the things about news when it went digital is that it had to become very, very frequent in order to gain enough revenue. So they had to get stories in place that would sit on they call it evergreen, but they'd sit on the shelf, so they could go online, and they were a reason to prompt people to look, but they were about, I don't know, pasta from Italy, right? And I'm sure you've all read a great story in every newspaper everywhere about pasta from Italy. I always use that example because that's the one everyone knows. That's not really actually news. It's not local news. And so because we're not focused on advertising in the same way, we're only interested in publishing when we have something to publish of note. So it's going to be, we have at the moment focused on 3 verticals. And the other thing that we're offering is for the community to submit content and to have it checked by an editor and then published. So that's what we're offering in terms of publication. So there's no commitment to how often that is. That's about when something is done properly. We're trying to build a platform that offers push notifications. So if you want to find out if a story has been published, that you will get a little notification on your phone.
I spent a number of years in the media, the news media. I always liked it. I started at CKEC in New Glasgow as a teenager, and that was about 60 years ago. And I worked at CKBI, Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, radio and TV. And then I was bureau chief at the Evening News at one time.
I think he's applying for that position you taught reference.
Great.
And I was the general manager of Weekly paper at one time, and worked at the Nova Scotia Communications and Information Center for a period as well. So I find this quite fascinating, and I wouldn't throw cold water on this at all. I think it has potential, because when you look back and you actually see where coverage was years ago, as the mayor pointed out, the people that attended meetings, and I used to do that at one time, and they're just not there anymore. And a lot of the papers aren't there. And some of the radio and TV stations that did, in fact, used to carry so much news and have a news department. When I look at the Prince Albert operation, you know, you look around a newsroom and they're not a big city by any means, but you have 8 people. Or more, and so a lot of support people, and that just doesn't exist. And we as a town are so much diminished from what we used to be. Westville's heyday was actually over 1,000 people poured into Westville to work between the one census period from 1911 to 1921. The population increased by 1,000 people. We had over 5,000 people here years ago, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's and that is a story of a lot of communities in Canada.
With 3,500 today, right?
The other thing is that we, and it's interesting because CAO and I were just having a conversation today about various things that we know are on the cusp of happening here in town. And how do we get the message out to our citizens to prepare them for it? Not to prepare them for it, but to ask for to give them whatever information we can divulge at this point in time and get their feedback on their opinions on these sorts of things. So, you know, the only thing that we can think of is obviously calling a community meeting. We'll get a reasonably good turnout. We have in the past, but we won't reach as many as we could through some other means. So it sort of intrigues me in that way that this could be an avenue for that. What you're proposing would be an avenue for us to be able to do that. And Westville has traditionally been a very engaged community. You know, its citizens here in Westville are interested in their community, have pride in the community, and have come out for community events. And it might have, you know, and I hope people don't take this the wrong way, it may have waned a little bit in the last few years, and I think because of lack of communications, lack of being able to tell the story on a continuous basis, right? So, you know, I agree with Councillor McKinnon that, it's something that certainly I think what I can tell you is that we'll give it some sober, serious thought.
Thank you.
As a council, I can assure you of that. I think the Deputy Mayor would agree with me on that. And Sarah, who's here virtually, I'm sure is nodding her head. So, that's where we are that currently. And we will,
There she is nodding.
yeah, and I just wanted, before we finish, and I know I have another presentation, I don't want to keep you guys waiting any longer. You mentioned Canada Day, you asked about Canada Day in Westville. Well, we are quite proud of Canada Day in Westville,
I know.
as rightly we should be. Canada Day in Westville is the longest celebration of Canada Day and Dominion Day prior to Canada Day in Canada. It's been going on for a long time.
Over 100 years.
Over 100 years. I think maybe, longer than that. Over 130 years maybe, on a continuous basis. And as a small town, we swell. On July the 1st in particular, we increase our population here for the day by people coming from all over the province. By tenfold sometimes. And this year in particular, Deputy Mayor Murphy here is also one of our volunteer firemen who's involved, and the fire department are the ones that have been carrying the weight of Canada Day for the last number of years, the Canada Day celebrations. And it's a week-long celebration. It's not just Canada Day. It's longer than a week this year.
2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks this year.
I love it.
Because it's the 150th anniversary of our fire department
Okay.
as well.
I wasn't there for the whole time.
No, he came on later. So, our town was incorporated in 1893, so the fire department was in existence before the town actually was incorporated. So we have a lot of stories to tell. So there'll be no shortage of stories, is my opinion. And not only that, talking about the past events, and like, for example, Canada Week, 2 weeks celebration that we have going on, starting next week, actually. We're starting this week, really. Saturday, starting on Saturday.
Kids Fest.
There you
11
go.
to 1.
Kid
Katie
Fest.
Park.
There you go. And then in that past sort of thing, in conjunction with some of the things that we see happening in the future, in the near future, within the next 2 to 5 years, there's lots of stories to be told. So I for one, want to find every way that we can to tell those stories. So
And
that's
save
why I
them.
say that's why I say we'll give this matter very serious consideration in the future weeks to come.
Before I know I'm keeping everybody, I'm very sorry. I just want to add that the examples you're giving are great. And one of the things I'd like to add to that is just the archiving of information, which is something we haven't really touched on here. But part of a news function is to create that record
Yes.
of what happened and what's happening. And even radio struggles with that because sound is disappearing from the minute it is produced.
Right.
So that function, as well as some of the other reasons that local news is important in
Yeah,
this.
I'm very much a history buff, and that's one of the things that I think is missing because we do not have the local, reporting that we once had. And a good example of that is that last year, I lose track of time sometimes, we celebrated the 100th anniversary of our cenotaph downtown. And we had a special rededication on the 100th anniversary of that cenotaph. And some of our historical buffs in town went about doing research on, when that monument was placed there 100 years ago. And they were able to go to the archives in Halifax, and local papers as well, and get the information. That nowadays will be non-existent for someone to research
That's
because
right.
it doesn't exist anymore. It's
Doesn't
unfortunate.
exist. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. If we have the
So-
opportunity, that's what we'd like to do.
So I thank you very much on
Thank
behalf
you.
of
Thank you
council.
so much for your
Ariel,
time.
coming,
Thank you. I really
and,
appreciate your time.
I know that you are on a tight time schedule as far as wanting to get this off the ground. I understood that from what you said before. You'd like to get up and running quickly. And so we will we will take it under advisement as soon as possible to have a discussion on it.
Please, and if you have any further questions, we're all here to,
We may
me
have
and my
some.
group are here to answer your questions.
We may
Maybe
well
I'll
have.
get someone else to answer something so you don't get bored of me already.
Thank you, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so next on the agenda, another presentation, this time from a group that we're a little more familiar with. I think all of us are familiar with the 144 Construction Engineering Flight, who do tremendous work in our community, and we're no exception. They've done a lot of work here in Westville. So we do have a little bit of a presentation, I believe. Roy, is it Roy Burns, right? Roy, yes it is. Yes, Roy, if you want to come up and introduce your partner with you as well, if you don't mind.
Sure, yes. Okay, good evening. Thank you to the council for having allowed us to use this venue for our presentation. I'm Roy Byrne. I'm the chairman of the Community Advisory Board for the 144 Construction Engineering Flight in Pictou. And with me this evening is Master Corporal Reddick. He's the recruiter for the unit in Pictou. Our presentation this evening is in twofold. I get this up here. I'll speak on the Community Advisory Board and the OJT program which we have going. And Master Corporal Reddick will speak on the recruiting, training, and employment opportunities that the unit presents or has to offer. The flight started in 1995, yes, and MOU was struck up in April of 1996. So we've been around for a while. And the main role of one of the roles of the flight and the Community Advisory Board is to reach out or liaise with the community itself. So the role of the Community Advisory Board, which is made up of 2 members, a councillor, Mitchell McGregor, or Councillor McGregor, and another member, I'm not sure who the other member is. Anyway, 2 members from each town, 2 from the county. We have the OC of the flight, and myself as chairman. And that makes up the committee itself. And the flight over the years, we've had, in 1 year, we've put, I think it's 2007, or around 2007, we used up $1.2 million worth of building materials in Pictou County. That's the scale we're at that point in time. COVID came along and knocked everything out, killed everything. So right now we're trying to build the program back up again, and Master Corporal Reddick will speak on the recruiting side, how that's picking up, and I'll speak on the OJT, on-job training side of the house. The on-job training, the main role there is to provide a good quality training for the members of the flight. The training can't conflict with any contractors. In other words, if we have a project to do for you folks, in fact, we have worked in this building over the years, in this building and the building next door, and several churches, community halls, Camp Getty, Boy Scout camps, many municipal buildings. And the idea is to bring our men in as like a training program outside, which we call the, what do you call them? Lost my thought. Recruit, apprenticeship, yeah, this is what I'm trying to think of, apprenticeships. We have apprenticeship programs outside for most trades. Most training organizations have those. What we have is we have OJT, on-job training. We also have schools I should say, in Canada on Canadian Forces bases, and that's where our people train mainly. But we need the OJT part of the package. So when they come back to Pictou, they're not just sitting around making up cabinets and doing little paint jobs in the shop itself. They're out doing actual hands-on projects in the community. And in our unit, we have carpenters, we have electricians, we have plumbers, we have HVAC people, you name it, we got it. And these people that come back from schools, they're all working on their members ahead of those guys who are all Red Seal in Civvy World. I call it the real world, but in Civvy World, they are all Red Seal people. So they're training under training within a well-established program. And we need that training to continue, and the program itself in the past has employed like 42 people in Pictou. And those 42 people made up of 2 work crews years ago, and we were all over Pictou County doing projects earlier. The mandate of the board is to promote the program within the community. And what we try to do there is to keep employment going through the OJT program. We invite all local businesses, which are all not-for-profit, to come to us and say, hey, we need help with renovating this building. The church hall needs renovations. The community centers need renovations. We just finished a project in Hillside, which you guys know where it is anyway, but Hillside project. We're doing a project up, we just finished one in Tattamagush at the Fraser Cultural Center. We have numerous projects coming up here, some within the town of Stellarton, some within the town of Pictou, like fire departments in Pictou, Legions. We have 2 Legion projects coming up this year. And there's the type of things. But we'll go into those projects or into those organizations, and we'll take a Red Seal carpenter, if you want to call him that, so everybody knows what we're talking about. But we'll take a Red Seal carpenter in with us, and he may take 3 or 4 apprentices with him. And they'll do a renovation for the, say, the Stellarton Legion or Pictou Legion, whatever, or Pictou Fire Hall. So we need that training. It's on-job training. It's good quality training because they are being supervised and they are doing actual hands-on work. As opposed to sitting in a classroom, you can take folks out of here, and some of us have done that, and go into the community colleges here in the county. And that's great. You're working in a great environment. It's nice and clean, and everything's ideal. You get outside working in places where our guys work anyway, and our guys have worked anywhere from Alert in the North Pole. Right now we have groups in Oklahoma doing work. They were in last year in Oklahoma, and they've gone back this year to finish up some housing projects at a native reserve in Oklahoma. They've gone from there to California. I myself, we've spent time in Cape Cod, through the Carolinas, in the Savannah, Georgia, and not most of us, quite a few of us have been to Afghanistan. We've had guys go over to, I'm trying to think any part of Europe that we didn't go into. We had guys work just about every part of Europe from that flight. And all because of the training they have received here in Canada, and a lot of it through the OJT program. Sure, they went off to schools and learned the hands-on or learned the basics, but when they came back, they used places like the 5 towns here in Pictou County. And that's where they basically cut their teeth, right, where they learned to hone their skills, put it that way. So we need to keep the program going. We need to keep members from each community involved. Because one of the problems we have, and we've run into this in the past, is that we get a request. What happens is I send a form out to the any organization, some hall or some group. They fill out the form, send it back to us. We sit at the table once a month, and Councillor McGregor will sit with us, and all the group, there's roughly 12 of us in the group, and we say, great, yeah, this is a good-looking project. But okay, Councillor McGregor may say, well, in Westville, we have plans to divert that street or make another change, whatever. So that's the expertise that we need from the councillors and members of that board. Is saying, great, yeah, this is a good value project. It's a long-lasting project. It's not just something for, it's going to be for 2 years or 1 year, whatever. Some of the things we have run into in the past is that we do some checking ourselves, find out people who own the building, people who own the property that we're going to work on. We had one request, wasn't that long ago, to do a wharf project. And because I was from that area, I did some checking around. I said, that doesn't sound right to me. So I did some checking on my own and found that the guy doesn't even own the land. And the guy who owns the land was a good friend of mine. So I got talking to him just briefly at the Legion in River John one evening and said, hey, we're doing a project down by your way. Oh, are you? He said, what are you doing? I said, we're going to build a wharf. Oh, he said, nobody asked me. He said, is that your land? Yes, it is my land, he said.
Yeah.
So that's the sort of thing we run into, and that's the due diligence that we have to do on our part. And that's why we need members of the, from each council and each town with us. The projects that we do, they have to be mutually beneficial for us and the CF. In other words, we have to get good training value out of it. We had a request here recently to go and do a big paint job for somebody. There's no value in sending out electricians and carpenters and HVAC people to paint the side of a building. So that project got turned down. Projects cannot compete with local contractors. So if you give us a call to come out and do a job for you, make sure there's no local contractor that's standing outside looking in saying, hey, why are you giving this job to the military guys? We have local guys here that are looking for work, So we can't compete with local contractors. All the materials cost and the environmental assessments are borne by the requesting agency. So if you bring us in to do a project, whether it's building a bridge across some river, whatever, all the environmental assessments have to be done by you. And where the benefit is that we come in, all the labor, all the transportation costs, all the tools that we need for that job, we bring with us at no cost to you folks. In the past, used to be rule of thumb was if you did a job, it was a 60-40 split. 60% was material, 40% was labor. So if you're doing a $10,000 job, $6,000 on materials, $4,000 you save on labor that we bring to the job site. Just to cut this too short here. So the whole idea is that the projects all come through the Community Advisory Board through a project request form. We look at it, put the project through, Then it's passed on to the OC, or the officer commanding the flight, who right now is Lieutenant Marcetta. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. He's off he's in training himself on another base. But he would look at it, and he has a project coordinator. Those two folks are on the board, but they also take the project after we approve it. And they'll analyze and say, great, yeah, this project is going to be a week or 2 week project. It fits in our slot in this time frame because we have, like say right now, we have guys in Oklahoma. We can't do it this week. Anyway, that's what those folks do. And the warrant in charge right now, Warren Kennedy, is quite good at project assessments. He'll be in touch with whoever put the request in and say, hey, great, let's get together, let's do a site visit and see exactly what tooling we need to do that job with. We do have our own tools and a lot of our own transportation, so that's not usually a problem for us. Once the CAB or the Community Advisory Board approve the project, it's then turned over to the flight itself, and then that's where we cut the ties. We're no longer involved, but the flight warrant, the project coordinator, he will be in touch with whoever's put the request through. I don't know if I made that clear enough for you, but we need the OJ2 is what we need, and we need to keep it going, because COVID really kicked the program down the tube, and we're going to bring the program back up again. And again, we need membership from the counties. Some towns we're short. We're fortunate enough to have McGregor with us, Mitchell McGregor. He's on the committee, but I think we're short of hand here, and we're short of hand in Trenton, I believe, when the Trenton's even having trouble getting our membership up. I'll put that little plug in there because we need to keep the council going, and we need to keep members on the board. And this year's an election year. Some councilors are dropping off when I hear. So, let's try to keep the thing going, folks. And the MOU is still in place. It was signed in April of 1996. So we'd like to keep that thing going if we can. And if you know people are out there, that's one of the things we're finding out. In fact, we've picked up 6 projects since doing this presentation about a month and a half ago. We did all the 5 towns now. This is the last town we're doing. We've got about 6 projects that came to light just in the last few weeks. We've got 2 more sitting on the table this week that will be voted on Thursday night, and that'll bring it up to 8 for the first 6 months of this year. So it is coming back.
Good.
We need to work for the guys in the flight. We need the training for the guys in the flight. And now this time we'll turn it over to Master Corporal Reddick, and he can speak on the recruiting side.
Thank you very much, Roy.
We'll answer questions afterwards. If you
Yeah,
don't mind.
we will, definitely.
Afternoon, Mr. Mayor,
Master
councilors,
Corporal, welcome.
community members. My name is Master Corporal Nolan Reddick. I've been with the construction engineering flight for 23 years. I started out as a carpenter. I'm still a carpenter, but as in the military, there's secondary roles. What I'm going to kind of build on what Roy was talking about. The OJT program is basically what it is, where we come in. We have to get value for training, right? I've been on many bases. I've been to overseas twice. I've been all through Canada, all through the U.S. I've traveled quite a bit. And one thing I did notice about our unit, and I'm not just plugging, I'm just going to tell the truth, our unit is one of the best trained units I've ever worked with. On Reg Force basis, the only difference between us and the Reg Force is 3% wages. That's it. All the construction engineering flight, all of our training is with the Reg Force. I trained at Canadian Forces School of Military Engineering, CFSME, as a carpenter. So as a reservist, I think maybe 2 of us are on the course. So any of our courses we train with the Reg Force. On the recruiting side, I go to schools, community events, that type thing. Right now, we, proud to knock on wood, we're doing really well. We're having 7 members. That's the biggest we've had since probably 2005. We have 7 members going on basic training as of July 8th. Right? My recruiting team is fantastic. There's 2 of us, but at the end of the day, there's the whole unit recruits. What we do, I have pamphlets here, so I'll pass those out, right, just to show you some of what the trades that we do have. Basically, my approach is very simple. We go into school, like we talk to the young people. The biggest obstacles that we found, and obviously maybe you guys obviously help with it by passing on this information, is academic grade 10. As far as engineering unit, we need an academic grade 10 just to proceed. I mean, there's guys that came in as carpenters off the street, but I can't employ them as a carpenter because I don't have academic grade 10. That's just the force's way of pigeoning hole everybody in one spot. If you got minimum grade 10, academic math, you can become an engineer. Right now, we have all of our support trades full. So we have mobile support equipment operators, or drivers, material management, take care of all of our kit. We have our orderly room, which all the administrative stuff, kind of like here. And, but we have that all filled. Now I'm working on the engineering trades. The schools have been a really great source for us. I've worked with some of the cadets, and not really recruiting because we can't recruit cadets, but what I've seen, I used to be a cadet. Several members used to be cadets, so it's kind of a real good segue. So we come in, we show them the benefits of what we have, right? Our unit is like, we have 3 classes of pay. It's class A, B, and C. So class A is like on the civvy street, on the civilian side. You come in, you show up, you get paid for it. Class B is 7 days a week, you're on call on the weekends. I've been, like I said, 23 years. I got called in to do a floor once, right? So it's a pretty good deal. Like, it's the best kept secret in Pictou County, which I'm trying to holler and scream to people and let them know that, like, my philosophy is get paid to learn a trade. I was at the community college in 96, 97, and these guys came a-calling, like, you know, I was taking cabinet making at the time. I laid floors before that. So I was in the industry all my life, and then these guys came in and said, like, hey, we will teach you to do this and this and this. I'm like, wow, okay. So I'm paying money to learn this now, and you guys are going to pay me to do this. So I'm like, cha-ching, and away I went. I was like, that's our philosophy. Get paid to learn a trade. You come in, if you meet our criteria, you will get a full training. I'm a Red Seal carpenter through the military. I didn't feel I had to write it up. I didn't write I could challenge my ticket. As soon as you graduate from CFSME, our members are allowed to write the challenger ticket. So as far as the apprenticeship program, doing all the blocks, they call it, that type of thing, you don't have to do that because the forces and the apprenticeship program made this deal. So when you graduate from Canadian Forces School of Military Engineering Journeyman's course, we call them QL5. I think the new name is DP1. I mean DP2 now. But when you graduate from that, you can go on Civvy Street and challenge your ticket. We've had several members have done that. They got the Red Seal. Myself personally, I said, well, I'm not going to be working. I'm working for the military until I retire. So at the end of the day, it's one of the best, like I said, one of the best kept secrets in Pictou County. We have young people coming off the street. The average wage for aviator, and I'll just use my son as an example, my youngest son. He's coming in, and he started out, he was pumping gas for Wilson's or one of the, clerk or something in Wilson's. And he's making $137 a day, and he's just on the moon. He's like wanting to buy this car and wanting to buy that car. And, Dad, can I take over this? And I was like, slow down. You just, But these it's a really good opportunity for young people, and I'm trying to get it out. I've visited a lot of the towns, all the schools, any events. We just try to, we just try to make an appearance. Like with Roy talking about the OJT program, we volunteer for yard sales. We serve breakfast at the New Glasgow Legion. Our members, we just want to get out in the community and serve. That's why we all signed up, right? And I mean, with military, it does come first. Obviously, military situations do come first. If there's a community project and there's a military project, obviously that comes first. But it's not put aside. It's basically moved to the right a little bit, and then we come in and we take care of it. So I have some pamphlets I'll pass out. These are basically just our trades that we have. So if you have any questions, you don't mind if I approach?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Your military training came out, I believe, when you asked if it was okay to approach. I'm guessing that military training was showing through.
Thank you.
We don't often get that here in council chambers.
This basically just lays out our trades that we have at our unit. We have the trades that we have at our unit. So basically, we're like a construction company. That's the kind of that's the kind of analogy I like to use, right? So we're a construction company. We work for nonprofit organizations, disaster relief. So there's a whole range of things that we do, and we're getting right now, our numbers, we're like Roy was saying, we were at 42 at one time. We're moving closer to 30 now. And like I said, we have several members going on basic training, and I have probably 40 applicants in the pipeline at various different stages at the recruiting center in Halifax, because we deal with the recruiting center in Halifax. So as young people put their name in, I have basic contact cards, so I go through them once a week. And we started a new pilot project where young people could come in, and I have a team that works with them doing their applications at the unit. Because what we've seen in the past, you know, someone said, well, I'll try to apply. So they get there, and it is a little bit of a process. So we have a dedicated team. There's Master Corporal Miller, Elijah Miller, he works with me. And then there's Corporal Randy Chisholm. And other members of the unit are also trained, but they're my core members I use. And we bring the members in, they come in, we take them all through the process, and you can apply at 16 with your parents' permission. Now, with that being said, with our unit, there's no obligation. We're not like the Reg Force. I've had people go through all the process. They got their training, got their course. At the end of the course, like, this is not for me. Thank you for coming out. Give you a little handshake. Can I have the uniform back? And that's it. But you've gotten a trade that was paid for by us. So,
Can you tell me, you might have said this and I may have missed it, how many members currently do you have in the flight?
on paper, we're almost 40. But we have some members, you have the ability to work civilian side.
Okay.
So our obligation is 1 day a month. So you can work 1 day a month, or you can come on board and work your 30 days. You can work 3 days a week. It's a very flexible job. It's a very flexible training. Like, some people can say, listen, I have the young guys that come in, some of them want to work 3 days a week until they go on their training, right? So once they go on training, they're on Class B. That's the full 7 days a week.
Right.
But prior to training, so they're untrained, so they come in, they come to the supervisors, they give us their schedule. Like, so we are very flexible. Family obligations. The unit, we are very family oriented. So at the end of the day, family comes first. So as a member working, if I have, I have grandchildren myself. So, well, my granddaughter's playing rugby or soccer this week. Is there any possible way that I could, skin out and go? Yep, not a problem. There's guys that have gone away, even going away, like with obligations overseas. Now, that's a little different when you're going overseas, because there's a lot of training up to it. You can't just really drop out at the last minute. But if there's a tasking that comes up, and some of us have civilian jobs, some of us have side businesses, so it's a little bit of a struggle to juggle sometimes. But through the chain of command, we sit down and we usually get things figured out. So it's really flexible for a person that says, hey, I want to get my training, but I only want to work 3 or 4 days a week.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Great presentation,
Sure.
Roy and Master Corporal. Questions, comments from
Yeah, just
Deputy Mayor?
a couple of quick ones. What would you say your ratio to your projects to your membership? Are you having trouble? I mean, you want to build up your membership.
Yes, sir.
So you're looking to have more projects that are suitable for these, or are you pretty much even now with what you can handle?
Well, that's above my pay grade, but from just my personal experience on it, with the projects like Roy spoke to, we used to have 2 crews, right, working. We had that many projects. I used to run one. One of the sergeants ran one. So right now as after the pandemic, we're starting to move up towards that. Like, I think we're booked down till January. So
Last year, we had, last June, we had 2 projects on books. Right now, we have enough projects passed right now. Look at January of next year. I've got 2 more projects passed this Thursday night at our meeting, which should pass through. They'll be down late fall again into January, February next year.
Okay.
The job is, because of the size of the job and our manpower, so the guys are, say they're in Oklahoma right now. So the projects, we don't do small projects this week. The guys, if we have a full house, we'll take on a big project. And a big project will be 3 or 4 weeks longer. So the projects are coming in fast and furious right now over the last couple months. And what we found is that we were picking up more projects from the presentations. We picked up 6 so far.
I was I was about to say, it sounds like your presentations have generated some work for you, and so you've done a great job.
It generated some recruiting work.
Yeah, recruiting.
And the capabilities of our construction crew is, we have we have 4 journeyman carpenters, then we have support trades. At the end of the day, everybody's a carpenter at that unit. If you were a WIFI, if you're an MSE op, you end up being a carpenter. We all do, we do a cross-training thing. It's unofficial. However, at the end of the day, if we're framing a house, and the electrician, there's nothing to, for him, he's gonna be framing the house. He's gonna be doing the roof. The plumbers, they're going to be things. So we all cross-train. As a journeyman carpenter, I pulled wires for electricians. I don't like plugs because I got shocked when I was little. So electricity, I'm a little different on that one. But at the end of the day, we all cross-train. So when it comes to like project size, we are pretty capable of handling most projects within this AOR here. And we work between, our recruiting AOR is Antigonish and Churl. So I have to deal with everything in between there. And we have members from all those areas. We have members from Antigonish, we have members from Churl. We've even had a member who used to drive from Halifax because he found out about this. He's actually our MWO now. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is really a really good job for young people. And with our age now, they've just moved it to 65, the retirement age, but you have to basically sign off for that, asked to go to 65. Our cutoff is 55 years of age if you want to join. And our minimum is 16 with parents' permission.
Good.
So.
Councillor McKinnon?
Yes, 13 weeks is actually required in relationship to a basic training which includes weapon handling and first aid and drill and what have you, right?
We've had that compressed down to 56 days now.
56 days.
Yeah. So about 8 weeks.
When I know a person who was involved in refrigeration in Afghanistan, and people actually believed that he was 100% safe in Afghanistan because his role was refrigeration. But from going to point A to point B in Afghanistan, he also needed that period of training
Yes,
very,
sir.
very badly
Yeah,
because arms experience was necessary for even a refrigeration person in some situations, right?
And our motto, soldier first. We are trained as soldiers first. That's
Right,
that's one of our models, soldier first. We have all that training. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I can frame a house and I can protect you, so.
Can that really be reduced to, you said 56 days? You know,
As far as policy, I'll say, Mr. McKinnon, I can't speak to that, but I mean, if they got it down to 8 weeks, then it's a little more intense, right? I mean, we've spoke about this, some of our members at our unit. I did 13 weeks, one gentleman did 14, they did 10. So over the years, basically what we did, we honed our system, we just kind of made things work a little better, and then all of a sudden, they got it brought to a position where 8 weeks is sufficient. And and as the unit grows, like as the members finish basic training, then there's a lot of home-based training too. So we work Monday to Wednesday, and it's 7:30 to 3:30. Thursday, 7:30 to 7:30, 8 roughly, and then Friday, 8 to 12. So on that Thursday night training, a lot of our other military stuff is that's where they catch up. So mine awareness, IEDs, how to recognize them, that type of thing like that. So we are always training as carpenters, electricians, plumbers, Wi-Fi techs, water and fuel environmental technicians, but also training as soldiers too.
so the training is ongoing, and the 13 weeks, now 8 weeks, is in Quebec, right?
Negative, sir. That's it.
No,
It's
that
in.
used to be.
It's in Aldershot. Yes.
It's in
we-
Aldershot now.
We train at Saint Jean in Quebec.
Yeah, that's
Some
what-
members, and we have some members that are trained at Borden, and there's a program here in Aldershot. So they've just finished up one of our Master Corporal programs was down there, Master Corporal courses. It just depends upon the amount of people. We were lucky because I had 7 Nova Scotians, right? So we had to do some scrambling to get them on the course. We got them on, so and they're all young people. I think the oldest might be 28, and then the rest of them are like 19, 20, you know. So one just turned. She was 18, so she just turned 19. So they're all young people. So it does help a little bit. It makes it a little easier for them to say, hey, I'm still in Nova Scotia, right? And budgetary constraints, that kind of thing. So it's a win-win situation for all of us.
Councilor McKinnon, just to add some information. The guy who spoke up went to Afghanistan today, right? The person you spoke up went to Afghanistan as a heating, ventilation, air conditioning type person?
Yes.
Well, I did the same thing, that's what I am. I did the same thing. But what happens when you go on training or tasks like that, you have to look at each area you're going to, because the situation changes from whether you're going to Kuwait, Afghanistan, Iraq, or you're going into Ukraine. Situation awareness changes. And to accommodate for that, they'll take me when I was going. We went down to Kingston, Ontario for at the last training before we went over, just to get the environmental awareness of what's going on in Afghanistan. The personnel themselves, Afghans, and what their outlook is and what their approach is towards us coming into their country and doing what to do, and how we're getting their people out of the country. And also the weaponry that's being used over there, the landmines. We were constantly living in Afghanistan. Every night you have rocket attacks. You don't expect it. You pray until the sun goes down, and then they throw rockets at us. In the morning they pray, then they throw rockets at us. At lunchtime they throw rockets at us. So situation awareness changes in each place we're going to. If you're going into different places in Africa, it changes drastically in those places.
And with our jobs, with our jobs, it's when I went to Kuwait, I was obviously going as a struck tech, a carpenter, and next thing I know, I'm driving into Kuwait City as a purchaser. So it was just, so they're on the highway, and I'll tell you a real fast, funny little story, and then I'll get out of you here. My warrant officer, he was saying, like, I saw the Canadians going in for purchasing, and they were going in, and you see them with the Canadian shirts on, the baseball caps, and I said, you kind of stick out, I mean, even without the uniform, you see, it just looked like you see a guy walking down the street in Westville. Hey, what's going on, Charlie? Baseball cap, shirt and jeans. So obviously the Kuwaitis are going to go, I know who he is. Yeah. The bad guys, I should say Kuwaiti, but the bad guys. So I was at the market. So I bought a Kuwaiti shirt. So it said civilian, so it was a shirt right down to my ankles, and I got my sandals on, and I had a little hat, a little beanie, and I put sunglasses on. So I walked into the meeting. We have an O group in the morning, like for the purchasers, it tells us what we need to buy. And then one of the guys at the door says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I'm here for the O group." He said, "Nolan, what are you wearing?" Civilian clothes. And I went into the city, and they started talking to me in their language, and hello,
Yeah.
keep on going. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it was definitely a good experience for people. You get to see many, many places in the world, and it's all volunteer. That's the big
Right.
thing. Get paid to-
I think Councillor Sarah McKinnon virtually
Yep.
has a question. Sarah?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Just wondering if you have noticed recently if there's been more female identifying enrollment,
Oh, yes, for sure. Yes,
higher percentage of women.
yes, right now, of the 7 that I'm sending, there's 4.
4 out of 7.
4 young ladies. And we have a sergeant, she gives me a hand, and when we go in, just for making it more approachable, see a lady in the military, so she comes in, we sit down. So our numbers definitely reflect, like, we're probably, I would say, out of a percentage, I would say a good probably 30% of our membership, right? 20%, something along there.
Very good. Anything else, Sarah?
No, that's great, thank you.
You good? Okay, thank you very much, Master Corporal and Roy. I think I can see why your numbers have gone up as far as jobs and so on. Both of you speak, very enthusiastically about your program and what you do at the Flight Engineering, and we certainly appreciate it. And I thought I knew something about what you are and what you do. I think I've learned a lot more tonight than I guess I didn't know. I thought I knew more than I knew. Let's put it that way. So I thank you very much for your information. It's been great. And anything else the councillors have? CAO?
How does one get in line? If you've got a project, how does one get in line to be considered? And I assume
There's
there's,
an
there's some sort of process.
It's an application form with Roy. They look at the criteria to see if that your organization meets those criteria, and most nonprofit organizations do. Just depend upon the training value. For us, right, as carpenters, like, you know, you say, well, hey Nolan, we need a roof done, right? Honestly, a roof, the training value for us, we did thousands of roofs, right? But not to say that it wouldn't be considered, right? Because every day I'm folding in new people. I'm going to have new carpenters. I'm going to have new people. So,
Master Corporal, Roy, what if we had a project that would involve every trade that you possibly have in our community?
it'd be great.
And it was being done by a nonprofit group.
That's
We did this building years ago for Sandy Sear, Mayor Sear. back
Yep,
then.
yep,
Yep.
We did I mentioned earlier, John Howard Society was down the hall.
Right. Right.
Cut it downstairs, took down brick walls for you. We had plumbers here, we had electricians here, we had carpenters here, we had MC ops here, going for material.
And like I said,
The cop shop next door there.
I think I know what the CAO was, why he was asking that, because we have that's something I was talking about when Ariel was presenting some of the things that we see coming downstream, hopefully in the near future for the town. And one of them would involve, a fairly significant major project, and it would be being done by a nonprofit group.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
that's why the question was being asked,
and
I'm
like
sure.
with our people, we have
Surveyors that, let's encourage some panels.
Absolutely.
But if you're looking at a project next year, say 2025, in that timeframe, start looking at your project now. I can send you guys my email address there and have some get the project request form from me. I'll send it to you or whoever. But get it on the books now, and we take a look at it, and we size the project and say, hey, this is a 1-month project or a 2-month project, whatever. And we have done some long-term projects. And we get you on the books now and say, hey, we'll look at this. And get it through the committee, or CAB. And then the project coordinator will come and talk with, Mr. Reeves or whoever, or yourself.
Yep.
and we always have new people coming in. So you got
Absolutely.
new carpenters need their OJT. New
Fantastic.
carpenters need new electricians. So, but anyway, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys having us. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much, once again.
Thank you.
Excellent. No problem. So,
Take care. Good to see you.
that does bring us to the conclusion of our Committee of the Whole meeting. Just, next meeting will be our regular council meeting 1 week from tonight here in council chambers. We have a few other meetings coming up. I think we're not 100%, Police Commission tomorrow night?
Yes.
Police Commission tomorrow evening. Planning Advisory Committee, it looks like we may be, I know it's posted on the door, Kristen doesn't know about this probably, but we may be looking at changing that from Wednesday of this week to, okay, we're not, it's going to be on then. Okay. All right, so we're going to continue with the,
People either way.
okay, so Wednesday at 6 PM, Planning Advisory Committee. And Deputy Mayor here knows it's a busy couple of weeks coming up with the Canada Day activities, so we look forward to that, participating in that.
A lot of new events.
A lot of new events, stretched out to 2 weeks, yeah. It had to be some new events, right? So it's going to be an exciting time, and I'm proud to say that we, those that don't know, when you're leaving the building or driving by our Civic Center, you'll see that we're proudly flying the pride flag that was raised today at noon, with a good turnout of individuals there as well. So with that, no further business, I declare the meeting adjourned.